that India's own normal in terms of its growth rate has to target anything close to a double digit. India growing at 5%, 6%, even 7% is not an India which is going to face up to this challenge. And I do believe that India has that potential to make 9 to 10% its new normal in the years to come. How do we reach that roadmap? And once we achieve that, to generate jobs for the ability of this population is going to be, though challenging, reasonably possible. The roadmap which we've currently laid for ourselves, the first aspect of that is that we are very strongly strengthening all our regional, our state, provincial governments. Financially, we've seen an era where all our state governments literally had to run to the center for resources. Today, it's a different ballgame altogether. Conventionally, we have been speaking and paying lip sympathy to a commonly used phrase in India, which is cooperative federalism. But we actually now see it in action. In the new partnership between the center and the states, the revenue of the states has been hugely increased so that they can invest a lot more both in social infrastructure and physical infrastructure. They can invest a lot more in their poverty alleviation schemes. So each state this year onwards is going to get 10% more than what it did in the previous years. This has also led to another form of federalism in India, which we've now started referring to as competitive federalism. State after state is competing with each other. They are competing to woo investments, they are competing to provide a better infrastructure, they are competing to create better universities, and so on. Now that's a process which is on. The second emphasis which we've laid down is increased significantly our investment in infrastructure. In this year's budget itself, my expenditure on infrastructure exceeded about $12 billion. Now, our main emphasis is to start rebuilding our national highways. It was a great program which was started when Mr. Vajpayee was in power. Last few years, it slowed down and slowed down significantly. And therefore, a lot of public investment is now being put both into the railways, both in national highways, in rural roads. In fact, one of the advantages that we've had of the lowering of the oil prices, that through a process of cess, we've converted a very significant part of the lowering of the oil prices. A lot of it goes to has been passed on to the consumer, but a very significant part, which comes as a cess to the central government, is being diverted into these three programs: rural roads, highways, and railway infrastructure. Our emphasis on manufacturing, because that's where the jobs are going to be. And therefore, the roadmap which the government has laid for itself is we've opened our doors for investment. Some of the sectors which had conventionally not been opened up have been opened up, and by and large, it's been a welcome move in India. There are very few sectors now, almost insignificant, which still remain closed. Everything has been opened up. Recently, in the last few months, we've taken the step of opening out insurance in a big way. We've opened our defense sector in a big way. We've opened up railway infrastructure, our real estate sector. Now, these were some of the sectors on which we had been conventionally conservative, but now these all have been opened up for investment. After having opened them up for investment, the next stage is when both domestic and international investors come in, how do we ease in our systems so that investing in India itself becomes more attractive? There had been a legitimate complaint that between the time when an investor takes a decision to invest and the actual launch of his project, he has to run to dozens of offices. There are many challenges before him. And therefore, the time spent in this itself may be a few years before he can actually start the process. Now, this is something which I would say is still work in progress. We are trying to narrow down that period. And therefore, I've, in fact, in this year, set up a new committee to look into the whole mechanism of how the whole institution of prior permissions can be replaced by a regulatory mechanism where it's far easier to start your business just complying with the guidelines which have been stated in that area. As far as our taxation laws are concerned, there had been conventionally a lot of legacy issues. It had been a fairly hostile system, some people mention. In the last few months, I'll be speaking on it separately at a function tomorrow, so I'm not elaborating at this moment in detail as to the steps which we are taken to smoothen up the entire taxation system itself. There are sectors which we've opened up in a big way. Our mining sector, our coal sector, and the auctions which we've held in these areas have been a huge success. The entire possibility of anybody calling a decision of the government questionable itself has been completely eliminated. And hence, once these sectors and the manufacturing activity which results from these sectors, coupled with our emphasis on infrastructure, all this over the next few years, we start seeing the result of all this activity in infrastructure and manufacturing. I have not the least doubt that from where we consider today around 8% growth, which we hope we are going to achieve this year, the ability to march forward towards that double-digit growth over the next few years is going to be reasonably possible. One of our very big challenges has been, and that's still a contentious issue, has been the land law in India, particularly the one which was legislated in 2013. I have no hesitation in saying that the land law, if it remains in the present shape, is a hurdle to employment creation. In fact, one of the purposes, and I think that's one of the key purposes, the most important one in terms of using India's demography, is one particular provision in the land law in the context of the subject that I would like to point out. One of the areas where we are trying to ease in the acquisition process is what we call the creation of industrial corridors. Now, unlike an industrial park or an industrial hub, an industrial corridor is a narrow corridor which runs along a national highway, which runs along a railway track, where you have industries on both sides of the road. Now, this is capable of providing employment to vast number of people in rural India. We currently have the Delhi-Mumbai corridor, which is being built. It's 1,200 kilometers. You have the Calcutta-Amritsar, same distance which is being built. So you'll have townships, smart cities, industries running across this whole corridor. 300 million people in India are landless. And when we talk in terms of using India's demography, the urban people are capable of finding a job for themselves. The landed peasantry is capable of finding work for itself. But it is those 300 million landless, which is almost close to a quarter of India's population, for whom industrialization of the areas where they are staying in, that's the rural areas, and it is these narrow corridors which are capable of providing a big opportunity in these particular areas. And I see one of the biggest challenges of the land law which we are trying to amend, which is currently a lot an issue in India, would be the net advantage of that land law if it could be passed in the coming days itself. Our program to have 100 new smart cities in India. Now, we've seen the first experiment. Last week, I had an opportunity to launch what is strictly India's first smart city It's also a special economic zone, a financial sector hub in Gujarat, in Gandhinagar. And the financial model on which it has been built is where land and the right to build on that land, we call it the FSI or the FAR in India, itself is being used as a resource. And that resource entirely is the state's investment. No more revenue from the state exchequers has been required. That's the financial model on which it has been built. And it's been an excellent success. The response to this has been extremely good. It's something which is worth emulating. Our skill development program has just started. And I think it's the success of this program itself which eventually can take us in the direction of generating a huge workforce with a large potential for employment itself. The weakest sections of society in India, we've started a huge social security program. We call it the Janadhan program, where every economically deprived person who had no access to a banking facility he's been linked to. Today, we are in the process of cash transfer to his accounts, supported by a social security program itself, which the government has launched in this current budget, which in the course of some questions, if there's an opportunity, I'll try to explain in detail. The Indo-US partnership, gradually it's reaching a new height. There's a huge amount of cooperation. And for each of these programs, we need a lot of investment, both domestic and international. And for each of these in the areas of skill development, in the areas of education, in the areas of infrastructure, in the areas of manufacturing, it is here if the investment starts coming in, I think the entire issue of providing skills and jobs to this great workforce in India would be reasonably possible. Thank you.
That is an impressive agenda of accomplishment so far and vision for what's coming up ahead. And I think the goal here in the United States, from those of us in this room and involved in the policy community, whether it's from government or business or other groups, is to figure out what's the role that we can play, because certainly India's growth is in our interest in so many ways. So the minister's got opportunity to take a couple of questions here. Please, your name, where you're from, and keep it very brief. I'm going to be very aggressive on that point. We don't want speeches, but we would like to get a few questions in. So let me just start. I see the first hand right over here. We've got a microphone coming up behind you.
Thank you, sir. That was a very lucid and very illuminating talk. I'm Pradeep Kapoor. I was Ambassador of India in Cambodia when you visited in the previous government with Vajpayee. And I was thereafter Ambassador of India in Chile. I was Secretary to the government, and now I'm Professor at the University of Maryland. Sir, my question to you is, what we feel from seeing the media in India is that a perception is being sought to be created that there are many shortcomings, there are many problems with governance issues in India. How is the government planning to tackle this very serious issue? Because half of the aspect of development takes place when there's a good economic sentiment. So that is there, and the perception globally of the government is very good. So what are the steps that in spite of all the great steps you have undertaken, the government has undertaken in so many different social sectors,